Good morning, Happy Valley, and welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined as always when we're talking Penn State athletics, Penn State recruiting, our co-host, Dylan Callahan-Crawley. Dylan, some exciting news on Penn State basketball's front. They have filled their final scholarship, as of now, at least, I should say, because the portal's still open until May 1st. But Freddie Dilione V is going to Penn State after a visit to campus. Freddie Dilione was a top, I think he was a four-star, number 33 national in the 2022 class, redshirted, which you don't really see too often at Tennessee that year, and then played this past season where he didn't really produce a whole lot. He played in 18 games, 1.7 points per game. Nothing crazy, but he does have a high potential, high ceiling type guy. Kind of talk to me a little bit about how this came together and what Penn State's getting in Freddie Dilione.
Yeah, so Penn State has hosted Freddie Dilione recently. I believe it was Sunday through Tuesday was his visit date. So, they hosted him for a visit after he entered the transfer portal, I believe, last week sometime. But it quickly came together. I mean, there was a previous relationship here between Dilione and the staff. He was very high on VCU in his original recruitment, actually took an official visit to VCU during that recruitment, which, a top 50 prospect, you usually don't see programs like VCU in that type of recruitment, at least that late into that type of recruitment. But ultimately, he picked Tennessee or VCU and some others. But that relationship between him and Mike Rhodes and a couple of those staff members that made the jump from VCU to Penn State remained strong. And when he entered the transfer portal, Penn State was right there for him, and it really came together pretty quickly here with the official visit. And then yesterday, after that visit concluded, we kind of got word from a few sources that this was going to be something that looked like it was going to happen. We posted a story about this time yesterday when we recorded, so about 24 hours ago, that Dilione was heavily leaning towards Penn State after that visit, and that news could come quickly with a commitment. And we wake up Wednesday morning and he commits to Penn State. And it's a really nice pickup for Mike Rhodes and the Nittany Lions. It was something, I said a couple of weeks ago after everybody entered the portal was, Penn State was going to have to go out and add a couple guys to that roster who have multiple years of experience, because after next year, they're going to lose another 3 or 4 players to eligibility. So they really need to infuse some guys into this roster that had, not just a year of eligibility, but 2-3 years of eligibility. And they've done that with their last few pickups here, including Dilione, who has 3 years of eligibility left, I believe, with the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, I keep looking through his tape, and obviously there's not a ton of it. Like I said, he only played in 18 games. He had a couple games where he scored 5+ points, but not a ton of minutes. Seems like he's a pretty good passer. Seems like he can get to the rim. That's where most of his shots are from, at least. I like to compare this one to kind of like a DeMarco Dunn type, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a highly rated kid out of high school, didn't pan out his first school, goes to his second school, and they try to unlock some of that potential.
Right.
DeMarco Dunn went from 2.7 at UNC to 6.8 at Penn State this year.
And he was
we see a jump like that?
I think so. And going back to Dunn, there's some key stretches there where he was one of the Nittany Lions' best players overall. But yeah, I think there's no reason not to believe we can't see a similar jump from Dilione, because not just even Dunn, but before he left the program, Kanye Clary went from not really doing much his first year with the program to being one of the most productive players in not just the Big Ten, but the entire country before he went down with that injury and then eventually left the program. So I absolutely think that it is possible for Dilione and anybody that the Nittany Lions bring in to make similar jumps. The staff can clearly develop players. They showed that at VCU, and they showed that in their first year with the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting kid too, because he committed to Louisville earlier in April, and ended up obviously not ending up at Louisville. But NC State was after him. Louisville was after him. It's not like, I know his numbers aren't great, but he's also had some really good games in high school. He's had a 36-point game in high school. He's had a 40-point game in high school. Louisville was the team to watch. They landed him.
Yeah.
So, anytime like a school like Louisville, who's got, I know obviously past couple of years have been pretty bad under Kenny Payne, but the fact that they were going after him under Pat Kelsey, who ironically was a Penn State candidate, a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, a year ago. Was after him. It kind of tells me this is a good prospect. And
And
NC State's pretty good too. They were just in the Final Four.
right. And the other thing to note with Dilione is hoping pronouncing that right.
Mm-hmm.
He had plantar fasciitis earlier this season, which obviously healed and he was able to play in I think 18 games. But that's an injury that's really tough to come back from. In the short term, as it gets further and further away from that injury, you should be able to get stronger and stronger. But that historically has not been an easy injury to recover from for any athlete, but especially basketball players, where you rely on, you obviously rely on your feet for that explosiveness, and it's obviously a huge part of the game. But yeah, I mean, as he gets stronger coming off that injury, I think he has a chance to. Will he reach the potential that many thought he had coming out of high school? Who knows? But I still think there's plenty of potential for him to get close to that potential, if not reach it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I guess the most important question right now is we're just kind of waiting till May 1st hits, and that's when all transfers have to be in the portal by. Are we just assuming Ace Baldwin's still on board at this point? I know there were some rumors early he was leaving. Now it sounded like he's back. Then there was a post that was a little questionable.
He did post, that thing about on Instagram about another year with Happy Valley United, which got some people thinking, oh, he's coming back. He still hasn't announced anything. Somebody mistakenly posted an article a couple weeks ago following that Instagram post, and Ace, posted something on Twitter about how he hasn't announced anything and was upset about that. I don't blame anybody for writing that article. I mean, if you're announcing that you're excited for another whatever with Happy Valley United, that kind of gives the idea that you're returning. But, at the same time, I have to go with that. He said that he hasn't announced anything yet and that he's still deciding. But, as of right now, I'm projecting Ace to be on that roster until he's not. We can probably go back and forth debating whether or not he's going to be on this roster May 1st or May 2nd. But until he's not, I'm just going to continue to project him to be on the roster. Which, if he is, that's huge for Penn State. If it's not, that's obviously a major loss for the program and something they're going to have to overcome. But as of right now, I'm just going to continue to project him to be on this roster.
Yeah, well, that's good news as of this minute, I should say.
Every day we continue to go further into this without news is, like you said, good news.
Yeah. So now, like I mentioned before, they're out of scholarships now. They are filled at 13 total, with the 4 freshmen coming in, multiple transfers, 4 transfers coming in. Do we kind of know what the starting lineup's going to look like? Because they are returning 4 or 5 of the starters from last season.
Yeah, if you can give me 1 second.
I'm just debating now. Like, you obviously need a big man.
Yeah, so I mean,
going to fill one role, but who do you go 3 guard lineup? Do you go move Kern to the 3 and make it a guard lineup? Do you put Puff off the bench or Hicks off the bench? There's so many options.
It's going to be interesting. Of course, a lot of this comes back to Ace and if he returns, because if he returns, you're locking him into that one starting spot. It's going to be interesting to see how they choose to go in terms of a starting lineup this season. Let me actually go back and I'll see how many times they went with the different, 3 guards or 2 forwards.
I mean, I'm looking now. Like towards the end of the season, it was mostly Puff and Hicks at the forward spots, and then obviously Baldwin, Kern. But you can go 3 guard if DeMarco is going to step up a little bit. Dilione's right there. Eli Rice played some serious minutes from Nebraska last season. How do these freshmen come into play? It's really going to be interesting, to be honest.
Yeah, they definitely, I think, have quite a bit of versatility within this roster and the ability to do some different things. And you got plenty of high upside guys here too. Still, in Dilione, in Rice. I mean, we I didn't get to talk about Rice on the pod, but Rice is a guy who just shot 37% from 3-point range
Yeah,
last year in a
he's gonna be
limited
good.
sample size. But the Nittany Lions desperately missed that type of 3-point shooter this year. If he can come in and be that type of guy, that's going to be big for the program. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to project what the starting lineup is going to be like because I think there's going to be quite a few different combinations, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. Who's going to be that starting center for the team? Obviously, they got Niederhauser into the fold now. They got Nazay in there. But, Miles Goodman is a highly touted prospect, and
Yeah.
it's going to be hard, I think, to keep him off the court. So does he play his way into a starting lineup eventually? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to think right now. Like, I think Yannick probably has to be the starter just based on what I'm looking at numbers wise. They weren't great, but averaged just 7 points as a sophomore at Northern Illinois. I'd probably put. Personally, I'd probably just go Ace. I like putting Kern at the three. I think Kern's lengthy enough to guard threes, and he's a
Yep.
good enough defender, of course. But putting Ace out there, I need a scorer at the two, and that's where it kind of comes between: is Dilione the guy? Is Eli Rice the guy? Is DeMarco Dunn the guy? One of
Right.
those three guys has to be the second guard. Kern at the three. Hicks and Puff can kind of split that four, and then the five, it's Niederhauser or Goodman or Kachineza or Neza
Right.
or Neza. I don't know. But yeah, I think you can kind of mix and match guys here. It's nice and it's going to be fun based on
Yeah.
schemes and matchups.
I think we're going to see. I think there's a chance we can see, a easily a handful of different starting lineups this year. Maybe there are just so many ways Mike Roach can go about with this roster, and that should be exciting for Penn State fans. I think there's still a lot of potential in this roster. I like what they've added this offseason. There are quite a few guys who are going to have to take that next step in their development if Penn State wants to take a next step as a program overall. But I think there's a lot to be excited about with this roster ahead in the next season. Good combination of veteran leadership and young talent that still has the potential to reach their ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. Now we've already started to see some schedule leaks come out
Yeah.
for Penn State's next season. Definitely won't be easy, just based on the early names. But down in Baltimore, they're going to be taking on Virginia Tech on November 14th at the
Yeah.
CFG Bank Arena. So that's a nice one. DMV area, so it kind of makes sense. Kind of, I guess, sort of meet in the middle. Not really, sort of, kind of. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. They're also going to go down to Florida in what I believe is an MTE in November, the Sunshine Slam Classic. No confirmed dates for this one yet,
Yeah.
but they will be facing Clemson, San Francisco, and Fordham in a four-team little tournament thing.
Yeah.
It's a good comp.
Yeah. No, Virginia Tech is going to be a good really good early season test for this program. But the one that really stands out to me there, obviously Clemson's going to be probably
Of
pretty
course.
good. And Fordham is, I think
They're okay.
they're okay. You can't take them for granted. Can't take them easily. But San Francisco is the one that I'm really, interested in. San Francisco is always, not always, but over the last few years has been a really solid team coming off a 23-11 season
Yeah.
this past year. They were 20-14 the year before. And San Francisco this past season took care of business rather well against Minnesota, who turned out to be a pretty quality Big Ten program this year. They defeated Minnesota 76-58 earlier this past season. They defeated DePaul 70-54. They beat Vanderbilt. This is a program that can very much go toe to toe with the best of them, and go to toe to toe with power conference programs. They narrowly fell to Gonzaga in the WCC tournament. They beat and they almost beat them in the regular season as well. And then they fell to Cincinnati by 1 in the NIT. So this is a very good San Francisco program that should be another really nice test for this Penn State team next season.
Yeah, last season's out of conference strength of schedule based on the net was 285. I expected to make a huge jump this year for the sole
Yeah.
fact Virginia was 50, Virginia Tech was 58, Clemson was 19, San Fran was 65, and Fordham was 188. So right then and there, you have a nice little start to the schedule. We'll see what happens. I'm intrigued to see how they fill out the rest of this. Obviously, there's
Yep.
going to be some cupcakes. I don't think we know if they're going to do any game in Philly again this year or not.
Um, they haven't announced it, I believe, but
Mm-hmm.
I would almost be surprised if they don't, just because how successful those
Yeah,
games have been over the last few years. And
yeah.
Philadelphia is going to continue to be a key, obviously, recruiting ground for the program going forward, too.
Of course. So, just those 4 games as of now. If you want to check it out, we have a whole tracker on the website, pennstate.rivals.com. Also on the message boards, the Lions Den forum, bunch of different scoops, whether it be recruiting scoop, team news, etc. But that's really all I got for hoops. A little bit of a shorter one today, but some good news as Freddie Dilione V is coming to State College. Anything else, Dylan, before we sign off in terms of
No,
hoops?
I think that covers that from a basketball perspective. It's been I think a very solid offseason for Mike Rhodes and that Penn State program overall. As they continue to build
Mm-hmm.
towards getting this program back to the NCAA tournament. We'll see if that's in 2024, 2025. But I think Penn State fans should feel good about the direction the program's headed right now under Rhodes.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's definitely got everything in the right direction. Got a nice little roster built of veterans now,
And
and some freshmen, some middle tier guys too with multi years, like you mentioned.
yeah,
So,
um, uh, and we have been covering basketball recruiting a bit, and we plan on doing it more going forward. But
mhm.
on the recruiting trail, yeah, they're not. It's going to take a while for them to land those high end players if that ever does come. But I think Mike Rhodes and his staff have been doing a pretty quality job in, you know, putting themselves into a lot of recruitments for really good players and having a chance to land these players in the upcoming months.
Yeah, for sure. Life period starts in July, so we're right around the corner. But yeah, no, they've done a good job so far. Miles Goodman, 4-star. I think Javin Carter's underrated. Dominic Stewart's sneaky good to get. And Hudson Ward intrigues me because of his athleticism. But
Yep.
we'll wait and see how many minutes these guys get in their freshman year too. So workouts start early June. They'll be together, I was told. So keep an eye on that, and we'll have some more from that in summertime. But yeah, for me and Dylan, that's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.